According to Pitchbook, less than 3% of all venture capital is invested in all female-founded businesses. Our goal today is to start a real, even difficult conversation about how we change that reality.
Personally, in my journey, it has been challenging to find and access capital. I would say also resource management. Number one for me, I'm a mommy of 4.
One of the practices that I'm really working on, and it's not easy, is this idea of asking the question who, not how, right? So who is out there? Somebody's already solved this problem. Who is that person, and how am I going to get that person to help me solve the problem?
One of the wonderful things about Cincinnati is that we do have P&G and Kroger and some other really great big companies here, but we also have a lot of SMBs. We've always known our platform is best in a large global enterprise, but most of who we sold to in the early days was people who didn't have procurement.
I think that one of the biggest challenges with engaging with customers or engaging with larger organizations like a Kroger or a P&G, depending on what department you're working with, they're not always so empowered to work with the startup. Sometimes even if there's benefit, the challenges to actually bring a startup in, run a pilot, they're not always empowered. There's certain sectors of the organization that are, but that's not always the case with kind of these larger companies and organizations.
It is really hard to partner with startups just because our processes are built to reduce risk.
I think as Cintrifuse is connected to the funding resources, I think that kind of this idea of P&G Ventures being a part of Cintrifuse or having partnerships or Kroger being a part, that could be a little bit more intentional, where it could be coupled with the funding so that you don't spend 1 year trying to get the funding and then an additional 1 year trying to acquire the customer.
So Cintrifuse was really helpful to us. They actually connected us first to our champion, the person who ended up becoming our champion inside of Procter & Gamble, and then to the person in Switzerland who ended up helping us get us around procurement at Procter & Gamble. A friend of mine, Christy Brown, who's also a female founder, she had sent Cintrifuse an email saying, are there other women doing this? And they sent her a list and we started a group. So
we've created within Ventures this culture that is, when we meet with founders, every single conversation starts with, how can I help?
I was on Clubhouse the other day in a great conversation with other female founders. Just the incredible tips. Like
sometimes we don't like to ask for help. We've got it. We're smart. We're connected. I encourage people all the time, just ask.
What we had to do was reimagine the problem again. Because the problem wasn't the same as it was just 2 weeks ago.
But we experienced the good and the bad of it. Some of our contracts got delayed because people weren't sure about if they had budget anymore when the world shut down in March last year. On the inverse side, we've always targeted remote working. And so, but it's always been like, that like 1% of the world that works remote. And all of a sudden it became 100%.
It wasn't really COVID that caused us to shift or pivot. It was actually Black Lives Matter.
Like, there are actually new opportunities created through this. It's hard, you have to shift, but startups can, we're agile.
The epiphany that I had was the incredible access that all entrepreneurs, and especially female entrepreneurs, had in being able to pitch like this.
This year, it's just been fantastic because we do cocktails and conversation, which of course don't involve any cocktails. And
CES or EY's Strategic Growth Forum, and I could keep going on and on. They were open to everybody. You could listen to other founders pitch. You could practice pitching with other founders, all from your bedroom or your basement.
COVID forced me to pause and take inventory of my life.
I'm a crunchy mama. I hate pumping. So when COVID hit, I just got to go and nurse her and put her down for a nap. And that was awesome. And I made it to 2 years.
I'm watching the individuals that I work with that have children. I don't have children myself, but them being able to spend more time with their children is actually very rewarding for me. I think they're happier employees. I think that they're more committed to our mission.
My hope is that all of this flexibility enables women to do things that they would have never considered or weren't options before because you couldn't do this.
the situation that COVID created, the world shutting down, has been an incredible time for a woman to start a business.
At Cintrifuse, we can route you to hundreds of resources in our community. For $150 a year, a Cintrifuse membership will give you up to $20,000 worth of services, vendor discounts, and more. Point being, we will do everything we can to empower you to pursue your big idea.